And of course, for many Mainers, hunting is a way of life. But as rifle season opens in the wake of the mass shootings in Lewiston, Department of Public Safety Commissioner Mike Soschuk acknowledging yesterday hearing gunshots might put some people on edge.
We spoke with a psychologist for some advice on how to cope with these potential feelings.
You know, we know from people, particularly people who've experienced traumas in the past, it can be violent trauma or other things, their brains get reset, so they're very reactive to unexpected things. So for those folks, you probably want to just do a little bit of mental rehearsal about if you hear a gunshot or hear something unexpected, to remind yourself that that's going on. And if people have particularly serious, like post-traumatic stress or something, figure out what you're going to do. Oftentimes another person can be very calming to you. I just think we find that if you anticipate that, we really think it actually helps reset your brain just a little bit.
Okay.
So anticipating what you're going to do, anticipating your own reaction is good mental health.